Hello, all, welcome. And let's look at my presentation for human factors in AI course completion as part of the AI product management specialization offered by Duke University in the Coursera platform. So, the case study I have selected is to build a recommendation system for the e commerce retailers so they can help their shoppers to get personalized recommendations while browsing and purchasing items from their platform. So, this is a very interesting use case because there is a lot of user data that is collected, and this helps to explain in detail how we actually need to design these systems with privacy and human factors in mind. So, the problem statement, like I discussed just now, there are a lot of products to choose from, and the customer needs to know which are the most recommended products or which are more suited for his or her style, and hence as of now the customer does not have a very clear way of identifying. The UI just displays lots and lots of information, and hence we want to build a recommendation system for such shoppers. So now coming to the task analysis, how does the journey of an online shopper look like? The first is he or she opens an e-commerce website, and then they go to search the specific item via a search bar, or they start exploring the categories. And once they find a particular product, they add the item to the cart, then they check out and purchase and provide the feedback. This is a straightforward task journey when there is no friction, but at every step of the process the user experiences some friction. So when the user opens the e-commerce platform, they have an overwhelming number of products to choose from, and once they go into a specific section or category, it is very hard to find the relevant products quickly. You still have lot of items in each category. But once I go past that barrier and try to look at the product details, the user is not sure about the uncertainty. User is not sure, he or she is uncertain about the fit, style, and the compatibility. And once user is also past this stage and they want to buy now, but because of the sheer number of browsing user has done, they may forget to add the items they intend to buy into the cart. And once they are at the cart, they still are not very sure. That's because of lacking of social proof. We don't know if this is the right choice or not, because usually in a shop you ask your friend or you ask the shopkeeper. There is no such feedback which is coming from the system right now. And in the end, if in the event the user manages to make a purchase, there is no incentive for the user to leave a feedback. So the way we will solve this problem with ML based solution is we will take the user's data, take the user's profile, his browsing history, his preferences, and then we will try and build a recommendation system which will work across all the touch points to make sure that the user is handheld throughout the journey. So now coming to the task analysis, we will simplify the data collection, and we will prioritize the recommendation and incorporate user feedback and the social proof. So coming to the UX design, if we look at integrating all the personalized recommendation system across various touch points, so how will the user experience change? So for a cold start problem for a user who is logging in for the first time, we will have a new section which will show the most recommended products across various categories. But once we overcome the cold start problem and the user is coming in repeatedly, then we can introduce a subcategory which says for you, or we can have a section below which says products similar to, right? So that is where we can offer smart suggestions. And for the abandoned carts, we can show them the in-app notifications, we can show them the SMS notifications, or the user can be retargeted after a certain period of time to remind them of their items they have not added to the cart. And once the user is at the cart, we will generate user generated content again to show them the reviews against the product, and we will give them the social proof on how many users have shortlisted this item or how many users have purchased this item, just to give them a comfort in buying the item from the online portal. And once the user leaves the feedback, we will incentivize this user, nudge the user to leave a review by giving them a discount or opportunity to be featured on the socials. So coming to the specific UX considerations for building an AI product, We will categorize this across four categories. And coming to user inputs, we will collect user details, and the consideration is going to be basically we will display how is this data used, and when the user clicks on that option, we will give him all the information on what are all the data that we are collecting for the user and how the data is used to tailor their personal recommendations. Additionally, at the points of data collection, there will always be an opt-out option for the user to manually opt out of the recommendation system. While doing so, we will explain the user that they are free to opt out, but they will not be able to receive personalized recommendations. Coming to the transparency, for all the personalized recommendations, there will be an option which says why recommended, and when the user clicks that, they will get to know the parameters or the features that are used to train the model, and based on which we think that this particular product is a good recommendation for the user. To communicate the uncertainty, the model will not mention, the UX will not mention you will like, instead it will use vocabulary such as you may like. And sometimes if we are testing new categories or if we are retraining the model, we would want to display a visual cue to show the strength of the suggestion, which gives the user a confidence that we are not doing a very deterministic recommendation, rather a probabilistic recommendation of how likely we think the user is going to like the alternative. And we can also collect feedback from the user at that point on what he thinks of our recommendation. Feedback loops again display the user how is this data used, and we collect feedback via implicit and explicit feedback loops. And then coming to the privacy considerations on how do we enforce fair information practices. Rights of individuals, user has the option to opt out, and we will give them the information via what is this data used for, to give the complete information. Controls on information, user will have complete access to change their user profile, update and delete their personal data. And from a technology perspective, there will be access controls to make sure that only the authorized employees can look at the customer data and basically use them in the algorithmic modeling. Information life cycle, there will be IT security practices in place to make sure that the customer data is encrypted at transit and in rest, and there will be security measures overall in the system to make sure that the system is not hacked, and there will be external security audits and vulnerability assessments to make sure that the system is up to date. Coming to the management of PII, there will be strict enforcement of data privacy laws, and there will be complete documentation on how the data is collected, how the data is used, and who is the responsible party for the data that is being collected from the consumers. Coming to the data privacy laws, it is generally wise to comply with the strictest sort of the data privacy laws and to design with the privacy in mind as a proactive approach. This should be a privacy by design. Although this portal, we assume that it will be operational in India with a plan to move to US and Europe in the longer run. When we are designing this, it is a good idea to design this to make sure that it is specifying to CCPA, GDPR for US and EU, and the IT Technology Act and E-commerce Regulation Act at the first priority to operate in the India market. Coming to the technological approach of ensuring the privacy, we can use differential privacy training, which makes sure that the individual user's data is not exposed, but rather an aggregated user data is used to train the model. Coming to the ethical considerations of the system, as the system is initially built, we can see that there is only a certain categories of dresses, there is only a certain catalog of dresses, example Indian dresses, only in the sizes of M to XL. And as the model gets trained, this is the initial set of data that is available with all the user generated feedback. But as we move on, and when the model is getting retrained, algorithmic bias now gets introduced, and it is not correctly recommending for users of sizes XS or plus size. And hence these are the different kinds of biases of underrepresentation and availability of catalog and model training. So how do we basically ensure that this is working is we look at it from the lens of fairness, accountability and transparency. When the model is getting retrained, we need to look at the data, we need to look at the data sheet, we need to look at the AI checklist to audit and to make sure that there is a fair representation across all the customer groups when the model is getting retrained. From an accountability perspective, there needs to be a clear roles and responsibilities on the data collection and deployment of the models, and there needs to be a process for handling customer complaints and feedback when there is feedback on inappropriate recommendations. And from a transparency perspective, there needs to be clear visual cues across the system to explain to the user on how the model is working, and why the model is giving the recommendations it is giving, why we are collecting the data with clear and easy to use instructions if the user wants to opt out of the model. As the last step and as an ongoing model, the company who is running this online portal should engage with customers and advocacy groups to gather feedback, to make their recommendation system thought process and logic open, and be open to feedback and address the concerns. So I believe that by adopting a very holistic approach on designing this, it is not only about the technological selection and the data to the model, but the human aspects of the AI model and the change management and the guiding of the users play a very important role in the success. So this is how we encourage the user adoption and trust, by involving user at all the phases during the user testing and gathering feedback. And we need to provide, when there is a new recommendation system, a clear onboarding to the user and education materials to explain what are the benefits of recommendation system and what are the limitations of the recommendation system. And as the last but not the least step, there should be a continuous monitoring and improvement in place to monitor how the recommendation system is doing, and to improve the system based on the user feedback and performance metrics. That is all for now, and thank you.